Hi, this is Jim Gibson. Thank you for joining me today on my channel. This channel is all about business, and it's all about how to start a business, how to run a business, how to manage a business, how to manage finances within a business. So today, what I'm going to talk about how I started a national company that ran for 30 years. We installed, it's an IT company, information technology stuff, telephones, computers, computer networks, things like that. But I started it with $0. I mean, $0. At the time, I worked for a really great company in the IT department called Billionaire Express. But I wanted to be in business for myself, and I thought I could do better. So I decided that I was going to start this business. Now, as I thought about that, I said, you know, I have health insurance that covers my family here, 4 kids and a wife, which is really a great business that I worked for. I mean, they were fantastic, and I enjoyed what I was doing. I decided what I would do is I would start a business, and I would start this business with no money because I wanted a proof of concept. I wanted it to work, not because of my investments, feeding it money, stuff like that. I wanted it to stand on its own 2 legs before I would even think about committing to going full-time in a business. So naturally, I'm an IT guy. I wanted to start an IT business. I thought about it, I prayed about it. How do you start an IT business with no money? And that's the best way. I'm going to tell you right now, the best way to start a business, don't put tons of money into it because you'll ruin your opportunity to learn how to run a business in the black. And that business ran for 30 years, had almost 30 employees at one point in every single state in the United States. Worked for government, worked for big corporations, worked for mom and pops, worked for medium-sized companies. So how do you start a business you're not going to put any money into? I mean, I was like really particular about this. I am not going to put any more than, let's say, pocket change into this business. So I'm thinking about it, and one afternoon I was standing in line. The people in front of me were having a discussion. And the one gentleman was talking to the other, and he said, man, I need a telephone jack put in my office today, and I need it done as quick as possible because of tomorrow or stuff like that. And he was talking to his friend, and he said to his friend, do you know anybody that does that? And he said, no, they're hard to find. I haven't been able to find it, and I would like to do 1 or 2 jacks also. So I tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, gentlemen, I'm sorry, I overheard the conversation, and I think I can help you. And they said, you can? And I said, yeah. I said, I'm an IT guy, and I can install telephone jacks. And they said, fantastic, how much you charge? And I think at the time I charged $35. Parts included, which is phenomenal. Do the same thing today, it would probably be $250. But back then it was $35, that's what I decided I would do. Now I didn't have any tools at the time, and I didn't have any parts, but I had a friend that had tools and parts. So I borrowed his tools, and I borrowed his parts, and I said, I'll pay you back as soon as I get paid. I showed up these 2 guys, or one guy's office or whatever, and he showed me, you know, I need a jack in that corner over there. I said, yes, I'll do it, no problem. It took me about 20 minutes, and he paid me. And that was the beginning. That's how we started. I took that money, I invested it in the business. So I went and got parts. Then the next one I did, and I think it was his friend, and I got tools. And I started building my parts and tools and making sure that I did not overspend. And I did not want credit from anybody. I did not want the company, my supplier, to say, well, I'll give you 6 months credit, you know, no interest. No, thank you. This thing has to succeed on its own. And so I would say after about a year's work and all, I was working weekends and evenings, and I was asking friends to help, and I would pay them, you know, to help for an hour or 2. I'm not going to put them on a payroll system, but, you know, they would help out and things like that. And it was getting really fantastic. Now, I was still enjoying my job there at Billionaire Express as an IT guy. So what I decided to do was I decided I would sit down and figure out if I could go full-time, because it was getting pretty good. And then I got a letter from the headquarters of the Marine Corps. It said, Captain Gibson, you are now activated for Desert Storm. And I said, I only have 1 day left on my reserve commitment to the Marine Corps. And they said, oh, and on top of that, it said in the letter, you're going to be reporting in a couple days to Camp Pendleton, California. for the duration. So I had all these customers. It was working beautiful, just the way I planned it. And so what I did is I turned over all my customers to a friendly competitor. And I went and I did my service for 1 year at Desert Storm. And it was probably the best year of my life. Really enjoyed it, everything else. Learned a lot about people, about how to manage chaos, things like that. But the bottom line is, now I've been discharged. And now I got nothing. I don't have any customers. I don't have people calling me to do installs or to do things. So I had to start all over again from scratch. It's the same philosophy. But this time I have my tools and I got my parts. So I started over again. Same thing. And again, great company, Burlington Air Express. They were a great company to work for. They knew what I was doing. I did not hide it from them. And in a lot of ways, they helped. They'd give me time off. I could adjust my schedule so I could go do jobs, things like that. But I started it all over again from scratch, the same way as I did before. And I built it up, and I built it up, and I built it up. And I got to the point to where I was saying to my wife, I said, when do we go full time? There's a lot of opportunity here. I'm working weekends. Sometimes I would work all day. At the end of the day at Burlington, I would go into the shower room, locker room, and I would change from my suit and tie, and I would change into dungarees and a t-shirt, and I'd go and work that night. And I remember a couple times I would work all 8 hours. I would go and work that night until the next morning doing installs, and I was very thankful to have the work. And then I would go home, get a shower, put my suit back on, and go to work. I did that a handful of times, if not more, because I wanted this to work. I wanted to be in business. I wanted to run an IT company. I wanted to service customers, and I did not want an hourly type of job. I did desperately wanted to be in business. So as time went on, I kept track. I had an Excel spreadsheet, and I kept track of all my sales and all my expenses. And I remember, 1 month, everything would be up. I'd have a tremendous amount of sales and hardly anything I could even manage at the time. And then the next month, it was like crickets. It was like nothing. I didn't have any sales. I had no installs, things like that. And I said to my wife, I said, this is month after month after month after month, just keeps on going up and down. Sometimes it levels out, other times it slides down and then goes up again. I said, how in the world am I going to be able to ever, do this business full time when I have this type of volatility in this business? And I am not going to spend one dime of our personal funds in building this business. So I decided, what I'll do is I will take a look at my income from this business, from this IT company that I'm building. I'm going to take a look at the income I'm getting. And so I looked at, as I said, I looked at 1 month, it was down, the next month it was up. I decided, let's do this quarterly for the last year. And it was about a year, maybe even more after Desert Storm that I was doing this. And I looked at the quarters and I noticed that the ups and downs smoothed out. That if I looked at it every 3 months, I could see a steady increase. It was going up, 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 and up. So I decided that this business at a certain point within the next 6 months would be more than enough to cover all my expenses. I could get my own health insurance. I could possibly buy a truck, things like that, and wasn't quite ready to take on an employee. But I decided it was a good time to start planning on exiting this fantastic job I had with Burlington Air Express. But it was that quarterly. I looked at the quarter, not the monthly, not the weekly. I looked at the quarter. How well was I doing each quarter? And it then became predictable because I could see it going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. And when I would see things like that, then I knew that this had predictability to it, that I had the resources to meet those things because I knew I was making profit because each month it was going up. So I knew I could actually profit from this. And so I decided, it's time. And I gave Burlington Air Express What a great company, by the way. You see how much I love that company and the people that work there. But I decided to let them know that I would be leaving the company. And I gave them as long as they needed. And I left the company, and from there, I would say 6 months later, I hired an employee. Actually, it was a neighbor down the street. Hired him. He worked full-time, a retired Marine. And then I hired another person, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And it grew into this big corporation that managed installations, trained people, I had salespeople. I got to a point where I didn't have enough employees, so I hired other companies to do installs for me, of which I would pay them. I want to stop and ask if this information is of valuable to you, the way you pay me back. Because I get people who call up sometimes and they'll say, oh, I really appreciate what you said and everything else. If you really appreciate this type of stuff, would you just subscribe, please, and give me a thumbs up? And so you can get more of these type videos. But it just grew and grew and grew. Now, I've learned some things in running a business for 30 years, an IT business, a highly technical business with very expensive technicians. I learned some things. And one of the things I learned, because it's a business to business. So I learned how other businesses succeed and fail in other industries. Now, I rarely worked for individuals. I usually, if not always, worked for businesses, and most of them were not the government. I did work for the government, doing installs for them, managing installs for them, but most of them were businesses that were going through the same issues I was going through, but I wanted to see how they were handling them. So I would talk to the owner, I would talk to the managers, I would be there every other month doing something for them, and I would ask them how growth is. I would really just pick their brains. And I had over 6,000 customers and installations throughout the United States. So I had a lot of chance to talk to people. And I also had a lot of chance to talk to people who I paid to do installs for me. And they were my competitors because they were doing the same thing I was doing. I was just paying them to do installs for me, install of IT equipment. So I would ask them about their business and how their business grew and things like that. So I learned some things, learned a lot about business and how to run a business and why businesses fail. And it's sad to see people put their whole life savings into starting a business. And they take their savings from their mom and dad, sister, brother, cousin, bank, and then they would fail. And that's something you don't forget about. It does affect you for probably the rest of your life if you're a person of integrity that really doesn't like taking people's money and not paying them back. So I learned how not to do that by seeing how other people did it wrong. And I learned how to do it by watching other people do it right. So that's how I started. Multi-million-dollar company that stretched to all 50 states in the United States, installations all over the place. There's a good chance that no matter where you live in America, that within 100 miles, that my company had installed equipment there. So it really took off, it really grew. It was always in the black. Never borrowed a dime for my business. It was always in the black, and it generated such funds that I could invest in other businesses. So I'm going to deal with this in another video in the near future, and I'm going to talk to you about how I managed to manage this growth, because growth can kill you, believe it or not. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing sometimes. How I managed it and how I stayed in the black from day one, from that first installation of IT equipment, all the way to the very, very last day when I sold my company. And I still benefit from that company today. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. And I'm going to do more of these type of videos that help people in business. And if you're not in the IT business, that's okay. A lot of these principles apply to you too. And I hope to help you so you can start a business that grows and becomes successful, and you can support your family, and you can, do better in life because of it and not go bankrupt. So So thank you for watching. You have a great day.